Good morning, Wabash. This week, speaking at chapel is President Hess. Dr. Gregory Hess is beginning his fourth year as the 16th president of Wabash. A native of San Francisco, he attended UC Davis as an undergraduate, and he earned his PhD in economics from the Johns Hopkins University. Giving his talk titled, "What Kind of Man Do You Want to Be?" President Hess.
Good morning, Wabash. It's not easy being the liberal arts college for men, but it is worth it. I'll tell you why. Here are three of the most important demographic challenges in higher education today. Wabash faces headwinds in each of these. These are the not easy parts of what we do. The first headwind is where students want to live. Millennials like lively, urban locations as compared to rural spaces. In part, this is because millennials exist in the share economy, which focuses on proximity, because you need to be near others in order to share. Urban areas have public spaces that are magnets for gathering millennials together. The second headwind is what students want to study. In the public arena today, there's a steady drumbeat for students to pursue more focused and professionalized degrees. Unnecessary economic anxiety drives much of this demand, which is based on the view that if you get an advanced indication for a specific job, you will be put on a path for lifetime success. What this ignores, however, is that a liberal arts education prepares millennials for the 5 or 6 or more careers that they will have in their lives, not just the first one that they think they will have. Now, I have a rule in my office. I actually have 5 rules. That won't be the topic of today's conversation. But one of them is don't bring me a problem without bringing me a solution. So we've been working on a couple of these headwinds, and let me talk about them quickly. For the first of these 2 headwinds, Wabash has made good progress. For example, with regard to making our surroundings more connected, we have worked closely with city government on our commitment to Crawfordsville. Indeed, we committed to help the city on its Stellar Communities designation, which focuses on quality of place. Our plan includes beautifying the downtown, helping to support the new park, Pike Place, which will connect with the farmers market, as well as moving the CIBE downtown and eventually into the city's Fusion Center. More work needs to be done here, but it's a great start. And with regards to liberal education, we have launched 4 Liberal Arts Plus initiatives to give students an adaptable toolkit that brings them new skills and experiences. Liberal Arts Plus are just opportunities for students to apply their liberal arts education in business, global health, digital arts, and public discourse. Just like a chemistry lab prepares a student for a disciplinary future in chemistry, our Liberal Arts Plus initiatives are interdisciplinary labs that prepare students for their futures, regardless of their career paths or their majors. Now, I said there were 3 demographic headwinds. I've just talked about 2, so let me talk about the third one. The final demographic headwind out there is who chooses to participate in higher education. And quite frankly, it does not seem to be young men. Let's look at some statistics. The discrepancy starts in high school. In 2011-2012, the 4-year high school graduation rate for men was 78%, compared to 85% for women. But it doesn't stop there. The percentage of high school graduates who enroll in 4-year colleges by the fall of the same calendar year, so those who go from high school and straight into college to 4-year degrees, 39% of male high school graduates enroll, compared to 45.3% of women. So women enroll at a 6.5 percentage point higher difference, but realize the difference between 39% and 45% is a 16% increase. So that's a big gap. Also, the percentage of college degrees conferred upon men 40 years ago was 54.5%. Today, the number is projected to plummet to 42.7%. Finally, the four-year college graduation rate for men who entered college in 2007 was 48% compared to 57% for women. The six-year rates are a little bit better. Men are at 62% and women are at 68%. But remember, this graduation rate is also amplified by the fact that more women are going to college and they're graduating at a higher rate as compared to men who are getting a low rate and graduating at a lower rate. The data for students of color tells a similar, if not more, concerning story. And we need to focus on this because the world is becoming more colorful, not less colorful. And fascinatingly enough, international data show similar trends. It's not just the U.S. Even the titles of recent books that talk about young men's education are troubling. I'll give you two examples. I had a much longer set, but we'll just go with a couple of spicy ones. First one, Manning Up, How the Rise of Women Has Turned Men into Boys, Kay Heimowitz. The second one, The End of Men and the Rise of Women, Hannah Rosen. Now, some books are both a little bit more helpful, both in their titles, although they are provocative. The first one, and we've had this speaker here several times, Guyland, The Perilous World Where Boys Become Men. And finally, The Trouble with Boys, a surprising report card on our sons, their problems at school, and what parents and educators must do, by Peg Tyre. Now, before I get into why Wabash is a city on the hill, why Wabash is part of the solution, not the problem, for how to educate young men, and why Wabash needs to be heard in this critical national conversation, I just want to walk you through a couple of my aha moments I've had in my just over 3 years as president of Wabash College. My first aha moment was about the gender gap on responsibility, whether or not it is actual or perceived, it is out there. I attended a showing a couple years ago hosted by Professor Olafson and others of Richard Linklater's 2014 movie, Boyhood, which follows Mason Evans Jr. intermittently from ages 6 to 19. Now, I'm going to have a spoiler alert here, so if you see the movie, I'm going to tell you the movie as quickly as possible. And it is a glimpse into the odyssey of male irresponsibility. Mason's biological father abandons the family and moves to Alaska. His first stepfather is a high achiever that drinks too much, and the family flees. The second stepfather is a lower achiever, and he too drinks too much, and he rigidly imposes his views on the rest of the family. Mason wanders his way through the odyssey of male irresponsibility. In fact, the movie's closing scene is Mason's first day of college, his ring-in Saturday, when he blows off freshman orientation, goes hiking with a few people he has just met, and takes hallucinogenic drugs. That's how the movie ends. That's how Boyhood is perceived. Now, I think it's pretty clear that Mason Evans Jr. would not make it as a Wabash man. And I believe that he would receive a straight red card from Dean Raiders on that behavior. But that was my first aha moment about the perception and possible reality of how boyhood is perceived. My second aha moment is about accountability in what I call in the small and in the large. And by that I mean collective accountability and individual accountability. It dawned on me when I was visiting Jamie Marasotis. He's the president of the Lumina Foundation, an exceptional foundation which is the sole foundation in the U.S. dedicated entirely to higher education. Lumina has an audacious goal of having 60% of America earning a post-secondary degree. I was sitting in the lobby in Indianapolis and browsing through the materials when I came across a document entitled Lumina Foundation's Equity Imperative, which focuses on the equality of opportunity in education for everyone. There was a line in the brochure that said Lumina, quote, focuses on institutional accountability rather than student deficits. In other words, we need to focus on collective accountability in higher education, not just blaming students for student outcomes. So here's how I think about it. And I apologize, it's probably heavily infused with my background as an economist, so indulge me for a few seconds here. First, the way I look at the world is that the basic unit of observation in human experience is the individual. Individual thought, individual decision, and individual action. The second kind of observation is that we are only a just society when sex, ethnicity, race, economic circumstance, and perhaps other characteristics do not, and I underscore do not, have predictable relationships to educational outcomes or other types of outcomes. If such predictable factors do exist, then we need to adopt a system that is more institutionally accountable. And finally, we need to make collective changes or look to those who are making progress on these issues to adopt their good ideas. Finally, we need to marry both individual accountability with institutional commitment. It only works if you have both. Accountability both in the small for the individual and in the large in our community. People need to be accountable, and we need to join together to be accountable. One without the other spells frustration and eventually failure. So those are my first two aha moments. The final aha moment was spread out over some time, and it was the realization that our country's cultural drumbeat is to rectify historical disadvantage. Not just any empirical gaps and outcomes, but only historical ones. Men as a general class have not been identified as disadvantaged in education, nor should they be. And let me underscore that, they should not be. By contrast, the same cannot be said for other groups, including women, individuals that are LGBT, people of color, or those who have physical differences or who face socioeconomic barriers. The gaps that men experience in educational outcomes are not because men are broken sparrows, something that needs to be fixed. The gap exists because men are currently underserved by education. Indeed, there is no cultural urgency for addressing collective accountability for young men, or for marrying it with individual accountability. In other words, there is no collective accountability for the education of young men. But there is one place, Wabash College. We are unique, or nearly so. Wabash College is designed for young men to flourish both for their own sake, sense of worth and accomplishment, and because it is tied to our collective prosperity. Wabash College is one of the solutions to collective and individual action on the education of young men. We do so because at Wabash we are the one college that asks each young man what I call our enduring question. What kind of man do you want to be? And then we make a comprehensive institutional commitment to support each student's quest to answer this fundamental question. So how do we accomplish this? In part, it's because we provide a holistic education that is reinforced both inside and outside the classroom. We then combine individual behavior with an institutional blend of culture, traditions, and norms that are constantly reinforced by faculty, staff, students, and alumni. Critically, unlike most of higher education, Wabash runs on a collective and individual ethical framework, not a legal framework. Our holistic academic culture is focused on what I call our 3 R's. You knew there had to be a number of something. That's the only way I go. There's 5 of this, 3 of that. It had to be 3. 3 R's worked perfect. Here we go. The first R is responsibility, which speaks directly to our gentleman's rule culture. Our gentleman's rule is the linchpin to personal responsibility. The student is expected to conduct himself at all times, both on and off the campus, as a gentleman and a responsible citizen. This simple rule is a constant reminder to students, think of others first, and to take account of others as well as yourself. Responsibility is in its own right a key component of the leadership education we provide to students here at the college. When things go well, you get to share the spotlight. When things go badly, the bright light shines directly only on the leader, who must accept the responsibility. That is why we build strong shoulders here at Wabash. We have, of course, institutionalized our approach to supporting individual accountability. On Ring In Saturday, we greet each freshman with the stark reality that they will be treated as an adult from this day forward, and that at Wabash, they are citizens, not customers. The gentleman's rule is reinforced in conversation after conversation and in action by the Dean of Students, as well as more comprehensively by faculty, staff, coaches, students, and alumni. Responsibility is our first R. The second R is resilience. Resilience is our second R. We recognize that in life you will occasionally fail and fall, and that the measure of the person, the measure of the man, is how they learn to pick themselves up. This sentiment is encapsulated in our mantra WAF, or Wabash Always Fights, or MOWNBU, which I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it is Coach Morgan's term, Men of Wabash, Nothing Breaks Us. We teach resilience in all that we do at Wabash. Students are expected to work hard. Always fighting is a piece of resilience. The culture is ingrained in the classroom. You must work hard. I wish I had $1 for each time I've heard an alumnus or an upperclassman tell me, when I was in high school, I got great grades and I didn't have to study. But when I got my first paper back at Wabash, it was covered in a sea of red. And in student life, the same culture of resilience is in play. When you are called into Dean Rader's office to account and atone for any feckless behavior you might be associated with, unless he has to go straight to the red card, he tends to treat mistakes as educational opportunities. Now, there's no free pass for feckless behavior, but the dean and the whole college are here to educate you and to get you back on track and to help you bounce back resiliently quickly. The final R of our 3 R's is reflection. We provided an education that is dialogue-rich and founded on face-to-face engagement. Our reflection in action teaches students to ask good questions and not be satisfied with weak answers or by demagoguery. We encourage students to ask follow-up questions and to use the agility of their liberal arts education to see connections between the things they learn across different disciplines. That's why you have to pass comps in order to get the Wabash College sheepskin. Reflection is endemic to a Wabash education. A Wabash education is challenging, but we also expect it to be confrontational in the competition of ideas and compassionate in the nurturing of understanding. This constant back and forth, this never-ending connecting to ideas from outside your discipline or from outside your belief system is critical to student development. It is imperative to your eventual ability to lead and be successful, no matter the situation. These 3 R's are our institutional blend of cultures, tradition, and norms that embody our support for the success of each and every Wabash man. So let's do our own bit of reflection. Why do we see the education of each Wabash man with our enduring question, what kind of man do you want to be? Why is this the first step in a Wabash man's 1,000-mile journey, to paraphrase Lao Tzu? We do so because we want to create in each and every one of you the natural desire to relentlessly pursue the discovery of your authentic self. The 3 R's of responsibility, resilience, and reflection are essential and irreplaceable components for that journey. And those 3 R's are the institutional blend of culture, tradition, and norms that should be adopted more widely by others to better serve young men. That's the takeaway for higher education and Wabash's contribution to the solution. But for all we collectively try to accomplish here at Wabash, we place our fate in the hands of the individual decisions, choices, actions, and ideas of each young Wabash man, which is kind of scary. And that's why we ask them, what kind of man do you want to be? Do you want to be a man who relentlessly seeks the truth? Do you want to be a man who lives by the gentleman's rule? Do you want to be a man who listens first? I've been told I could get better at that one. Do you want to be a man who makes the women around you stronger? Do you want to be a man to being committed to being all in? Do you want to be a man that your family would be proud of? Do you want to be a man who starts a business at 23, stars in a major motion picture, leads his congregation, sails around the world with his family, or runs one of the largest financial corporations through one of the biggest financial crises? Do you want to be a man who lives a life of responsibility, resilience, and reflection? The questions are endless, and that's the point. This 1,000-mile Wabash journey to discover the man you want to be, your authentic self, is a never-ending conversation, an enduring question, our enduring question. And when a young man's experience begins with this first question, what kind of man do you want to be? And his education is nurtured through the culture of our individual and collective 3 R's of responsibility, resilience, and reflection. Then he is well on the way to being the kind of man that he, in fact, is destined to be. Thank you very much.